The Where Our Minds Wander podcast may contain sensitive content. Listener discretion is advised.
Greetings, fellow wanderers, to the places our minds wander.
The house at the end of the dirt road, where disembodied voices whisper and strange sounds make the living shiver.
Where shadows lurk at the edge of the woods, just outside your back door. And mysterious lights speed beyond reason across the clear night sky.
Odd events throughout time that lead you down the rabbit hole.
I'm Wes.
And I'm Beth.
And this is Where Our Minds Wander. Hello and welcome to Where Our Minds Wander, all you fellow wanderers. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, welcome everyone.
We hope you all had a wonderful Easter.
Yes, if you celebrate Easter, we hope it was very lovely.
And tonight is part 2 of our Lake Tahoe anniversary special.
Yes, it is. So if you caught last week's episode, we dove pretty deeply into the waters of Lake Tahoe, discussing the lake monster known as Tahoe Tessie, and rumors of the lake bodies left there by the mob. We also covered 2 haunted locations, the Thunderbird Lodge and the Cal Neva Lodge and Casino. But we quickly realized while we were researching that there is a lot more to Lake Tahoe that falls under the supernatural umbrella, and we couldn't cover it all in one episode. So tonight we're offering part 2. So we can focus on the Bigfoot and the UFO sightings.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty incredible place. So I can't wait to get into tonight's episode. So Beth, why don't you get us started?
All righty. Both the Washoe and the Northern Paiute tribes had lore about a mysterious Sightика tribe, a race of allegedly cannibalistic men. Having lived in the Lake Tahoe area for over 9,000 years, the Washoe told stories of their neighbors and sometimes enemies, the Northern Paiute, warring against this savage tribe of Sightika. The Northern Paiutes claimed a battle took place near a cave that is now known as Lovelock Cave near Lovelock, Nevada, about 130 miles from Lake Tahoe. The Sightika were red-haired giants who practiced cannibalism, especially against the Paiutes. When the Paiutes fought back, the Sightika built rafts out of tulle or marsh grass, and they lived on these rafts in Lake Humboldt. In 1863, Sarah Winnemucca, daughter of Paiute chief Winnemucca, wrote in her book, Life Among the Paiutes, Their Wrongs and Claims, about a small tribe of barbarians. Now, those were her words, not mine. She wrote, quote, "After my people had killed them all, the people round us called us Sedukata. It means conqueror. It also means enemy. My people say that the tribe we exterminated had reddish hair. I have some of their hair, which has been handed down from father to son. I have a dress which has been in our family a great many years, trimmed with the reddish hair. I am going to wear it sometime when I lecture." End quote. Some experts believe that the Sightika were simply a tribe of humans who lived very differently from the Northern Paiutes, while others wonder if they were a tribe of Bigfoot. California is a Bigfoot hotspot, which is no surprise to anyone, I'm sure, second only to Washington state, with 461 reported sightings in the last 4 decades. El Dorado County, where Lake Tahoe is, has 26 of those sightings, as documented by the BFRO. So I thought to get us started with our part 2 that we could get into some of those sightings. On Highway 50 in the summer of 1986, A police officer and his wife were heading east towards Lake Tahoe. They were about 30 miles west of Lake Tahoe when they saw something. It was around 11:30 at night, and as they approached an S-curve, their headlights hit the face of a hill about 40 feet in front of them. And walking along the side of the road between the hill and their car was a very tall, very hairy, man-like creature. In the spring, a decade later, also on Highway 50, a woman and her 9-year-old son were on their way home from the Washoe Reservation. It was dusk on a clear night. As they drove through a heavily forested area, the little boy claimed that he saw a massive 7 to 8 foot tall creature standing by the side of the road, watching their car as it drove by. The creature, which the boy said was covered in brownish black fur, had an ape-like face with a flat nose and wide lips. Its long arms hung at its sides. This little boy was terrified, telling his mother that it was staring at them as they passed by. In June of 2000, a little south of Lake Tahoe, a family heard long, loud, strange screams coming from outside their house. The witness described them as a, quote, mournful wail, but also kind of like a locator beacon. Then a lower-pitched wail would respond. The two distinctly different wails would continue until they seemed to get closer and closer to each other. Then they'd just stop. Often, wolf howls would be interspersed between these strange wails. The witness said they occurred nightly over a span of 3 months, always between 9 p.m. at night and 7 a.m. This witness, his girlfriend, and his brother were able to record several of these screams or wails, and feeling certain that they were not made by coyotes, they decided to go check it out. They claimed the two of them spent several nights in the woods trying to pinpoint exactly where the wails were coming from. They found weird tracks, which they did photograph, and an area that they felt was most definitely a bedding down area. Although the witness did say that the bedding area could belong to a bear, they still were unable to explain those hair-raising, wailing sounds, or why their dogs sometimes refused to venture into certain areas of the woods.
I wonder if it could be Bigfoot's mating.
It sounds like it. If one of them is calling and then he said like a locator beacon kind of, and then the other one would respond, it was like they were trying to find each other.
Yeah, he's probably like, are you finally ready? I've got the bed all done up. Let's get this going.
She was primping.
Yeah.
Taking too long.
Right.
She was probably taking care of the children and finishing up their whatever dinner scraps they had left over. She was cleaning up and making sure the children were in bed and all that kind of stuff.
No, I think she was like looking into the pond, kind of slicking her hair back a little bit, getting all pretty. Maybe washing underneath her arms.
Right. Berries as lipstick.
Yeah.
Anyway, the BFRO investigator who went out to the witness's house also camped out where the witness believed that the sounds were originating from. At around 5:30 a.m., he was awoken by what sounded like branches being knocked together. And then, from off in the distance, he heard the wailing call, which he was able to record. In the fall of the year 2000, west of Lake Tahoe, a man and a woman were driving south on Highway 89 near the Sugar Pine Point State Campground at around 10:30 p.m. Now, this is a heavily wooded area, obviously, mostly pine trees, and there was no moonlight that evening. As they drove, their headlights suddenly picked up some sort of creature by the side of the road. But as their headlights shone directly on it, it turned and sprinted across the road in front of them. They said it was between 5 and 6 feet tall, about 200 pounds, and it was running on 2 feet, but not exactly like a human. It was hunched over and kept its arms straight down at its sides. So it ran like I would.
Pretty much. It's a good thing it doesn't ride a bike like you do.
Hey now.
They'd find it in a ditch.
People don't need to know that story.
Oh, but I think they'd like to.
At least I was all right when I ran the bike into the ditch. And you did ask me if I was all right before you laughed about it and then continued to bring it up. Anyway. This creature was also covered in shaggy reddish-brown fur or hair that they estimated was 4 inches long. They did not see bear-like ears on it, though, or any kind of ears of any sort. Although initially the woman questioned if it could be a bear, the husband pointed out that bears don't run that fast on 2 feet, and this creature allegedly ran pretty fast. Then they wondered if it was just some sort of prank, but they couldn't really rationalize why anyone would wait out there in the dark, potentially for hours, until a random car drove by. As they talked it over, trying to rationalize what they saw, they decided that whatever it was, it had to have been on the young side, based on its height and relatively low weight. And that's probably pretty true if it was only 5 or 6 feet tall. That's short for a Bigfoot.
Yeah, seems to be.
Yeah.
Sounds like a juvenile.
Right. A teenager.
Right.
Yeah. Another sighting happened a year later at the Sugar Pine Point campground during August of 2001. And again, it was around 10 o'clock at night, and the witness was camping with his sister. Out of nowhere, they heard a very loud whooping noise, followed by what they thought was a human female's scream. Immediately after, they heard branches snapping very close by. That would be unnerving.
Yeah, that it would.
I mean, there are animals that do sound like women screaming. I mean, we've heard it ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
Fox and other animals can sound like that.
Right.
But to hear a whooping first and then...
Yeah, but I'd still want to stay and see what it was. I mean, curiosity gets the best out of you over fear at times.
Well, maybe for you. I don't think they left, but I don't think they went out of their way to go investigate either. Another family leaving Lake Tahoe on Route 50 had their own 10 p.m. encounter in July of 2003. Both the husband and wife saw a strange creature lumbering across the road in front of them, heading towards the upper Truckee River, which was about 200 yards from their car. The creature was walking on 2 feet. The man thought it looked like a bear, but the wife said that to her, it looked more like some sort of monkey. Just like the previous year, this creature was only about 5 to 6 feet tall, but it was covered in light brown hair. The female witness was specific about it being hair and not fur. The next sighting occurred back at the Sugar Pine campground area in the spring of 2005. 3 witnesses were walking along the beach through what they described as, quote, gravelly sand, when they stumbled upon what looked like several giant footprints leading from the beach right down to the water's edge. Since it was early May, there was still snow on the ground, and as far as they could tell, no other people were on the beach with them. They snapped a photo with the man's foot side by side for comparison, and I have to say it is a pretty intriguing photo. First, the print is very deep, about 3 inches down into this gravel-like sand, compressing the larger stones into the sandier earth underneath, indicating that something with tremendous weight caused it. Second, it is considerably larger than the man's foot, which he says is 11 inches long. The print appears to be closer to 17 inches long and 9 inches wide. The man, who reported his weight to be 240 pounds at the time, tried to make a similar track, but he couldn't do it. Did you see the picture? I put it underneath.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild. It looks like a footprint. And I was trying to figure out when I was looking at it, like, could it be, if somebody had a boat, could it possibly be something from a boat? But you would think there'd be 4 of them.
No, it looks exactly like a footprint.
It really does. And it's huge compared to this guy's foot.
Yeah, and you'll post that online so people can see it on our Facebook page.
Yeah. And I mean, they were right when they said gravelly sand. It's tons and tons of small round rocks and pebbles.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting.
And lastly, also at Sugar Pine Campground, which really seems to be the place to go if you want to encounter a Bigfoot, or at least hear one. A couple were camping with her aunt and uncle in July of 2006. There were other campers in the vicinity as well, so this couple were by no means isolated from other people. The woman's aunt and uncle were sleeping in their camper trailer about 50 feet from the witnesses, who were in a tent. Around 4:30 a.m., the witness was woken up by a very strange whooping noise, followed by a howl. The man woke his girlfriend up, and together they listened for another 3 to 4 minutes as some creature off in the distance continued to whoop, and a second creature howled in response from a different direction. So just like the encounter before, it was 2 animals calling to each other.
Right, which is odd to me because normally you hear of one Bigfoot and you hear it making calls or tree knocks. But this seems to be having more of a conversation with another alleged Bigfoot out there.
Right, which, we jokingly said before, maybe it was a male and a female, but if there was that younger one wandering around that people were seeing, it could be between an adult and the younger one.
Yeah, it could be mom calling him home. It's time to eat.
Right. The following morning, the witnesses asked the woman's aunt and uncle if they had heard the sounds too, and they confirmed that they had. And despite having camped there for several years, they had never heard anything like it before. The 4 of them couldn't come up with what kind of animal could have made those types of noises. The witness said that he also questioned campers who were at the adjacent site, and they too said they'd been woken up by the whoop and the howl, and that they also had no clue what kind of animal it could have been. So I think it's safe to say, at least up until 2006, that Bigfoot, or Sasquatch if you prefer, was alive and well in the Lake Tahoe area.
Quite possible.
And I mean, it's in the Sierra Nevadas, and there are dozens and dozens of sightings in the Sierra Nevada mountains, but I was trying to stay around Lake Tahoe.
Right.
One amateur researcher who seems to think that Bigfoot was alive and well is Chuck Langrill. Langrill runs the Sierra Tahoe Bigfoot Research website, which is a place where people can post their experiences, including home videos. And what I found most credible about Langrill is that despite searching, he doesn't claim to have ever seen a Bigfoot himself, which to me says a lot. He's happy to go looking, but he isn't one to exaggerate about his experiences. It's also interesting that where people spot Bigfoot, they also tend to spot UFOs, which, I mean, we've seen lots of documentaries and heard a lot of other podcasts where people think that they're directly related, Bigfoot and UFOs. And whether you all agree with this theory or not, Lake Tahoe is a place where people have also seen very strange lights in the sky, which we'll get into after this quick break. Hey, did you know? In some places on Earth, almost 1 billion years of history have been completely erased. Except no one knows why. American explorer and geologist John Wesley Powell made the discovery in 1869 while he was in the Grand Canyon. While studying the rock layers, he observed that they lined up perfectly, showing an obvious progression through time that could be dated. Except there didn't seem to be enough layers to represent all of Earth's history. And that's because there isn't. In the Grand Canyon, there's a massive gap of missing time between one rock layer and the next. But it's not just the Grand Canyon. Known as the Great Unconformity, this missing time in rock layers is found all over the world, with the gap spanning anywhere from 200 million years to almost 1 billion. So where did the missing layers go, and why did they disappear? Nobody knows. Who'da thunk it?
All right, we're back. And as promised, I'm going to share some of the UFO encounters that people have had in the Lake Tahoe area. One of the most controversial UFO sightings of the Lake Tahoe area happened on September 4th, 1964. 3 bow hunters, 28-year-old Donald Shrum and his 2 friends, Vincent Alvarez and Tim Trueblood, were in the Tahoe National Forest near Cisco Grove. According to UFOinsight.com, the 3 men were avid bow hunters, and as it started to get dark, the 3 of them left their camp to go and hunt some deer. As they each went off in their own directions, they promised each other to meet back at the camp the following morning. As darkness truly set in, Shrum chose a tree. He climbed up it and settled in for the night, intending to sleep there. He had a military-style belt that allowed him to secure himself to the tree, so he was perfectly safe. Not long after, Shrum noticed a very bright but very strange light zigzagging throughout the trees. At first, he assumed that it was some sort of rescue helicopter, and he wondered why his friends had bothered to call one for him.